All right. Hello again, Avengers, and welcome to another exciting daily vlog. This is a daily vlog. I had to look because I screwed up the numbering, and I had to go and renumber a crap ton of them. We're at 335. Not the 340s I thought I was in. We're at 335, I believe. So, yet again, D&D Beyond has decided that I don't deserve to have money. No, just kidding. Another third-party title has been released on D&D Beyond, and this one actually had me really excited because there is a role-playing system called the One Ring. If you couldn't guess, it is a Lord of the Rings tabletop RPG. And I have, I think I have like the complete first edition because I got a bundle that had just about everything in it. But effectively what it is, it's designed to replicate adventures similar to The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. Nothing to do with the Silmarillion, nothing to do with like the last great alliance of men and elves. It is specifically designed to allow you to create a group, which they call a fellowship, and go on adventures that mimic what happened in The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. And if you haven't read either of those books, or rather, The Hobbit's a book, The Lord of the Rings is 3 books. They're one of the things that inspired D&D. And the type of storytelling that they do is not particularly great to do in D&D 5th edition. I'm not saying the storytelling in and of itself in the books is phenomenal. It's really, really great. However, D&D 5th edition does not lend itself to recreating those particular stories because those particular stories are about a journey. Like The Hobbit, they have to go from the Shire all the way to the Lonely Mountain and then deal with a big foe. For Lord of the Rings, again, they go from the Shire, but this time they go all the way to Mordor. And so in addition to the idea of, adventure and things like that, that journey that they take, like that's a massive part of this as a story. And D&D 5th edition, to be perfectly honest, D&D in general has never been particularly great at dealing with that kind of a journey. D&D is great for, like, it was originally designed for dungeon delves. Like original D&D, that's what you did. So much so that the original Party of Adventures that Gary Gygax used to DM for, they found this dungeon that just kept getting deeper and deeper and deeper. And so they decided to build a castle on top of it so that they never had to travel very far to go adventuring. That's where Castle Greyhawk came from, is they literally built it on top of a dungeon. That same idea kind of melded into the Forgotten Realms with the idea of the city of Waterdeep is built on this massive dungeon called Undermountain. It wasn't built for the same reasons, but it has a similar thing. D&D does that really, really well. And then as we get further and further in editions, they start adding more things that allow you to do more than just, I go into the dungeon, I kill things, I come back out. Second edition started introducing a little bit more of the adventuring stuff where you had, rangers and the things like that had to gather food, but it was still very kind of dungeon delving focus. You get to the third edition and you start having a little bit more things with just the absolute laundry list of different skills that were available to characters, you could start doing some stuff that wasn't so much focused on dungeon delving. And I would say, even though they had systems for social encounters in second edition, I think social encounters in and of themselves really kind of started to shine when you got to the third edition, partly due to the fact that massive laundry list of skills that they had. Then when we get to fourth edition, again, there was a lot of different things that you could do in fourth edition, but they did kind of simplify encounters in general, so that whether it was a combat encounter, social encounter, or exploration encounter, whatever, it all used basically the same rules, which some people liked. I personally really enjoyed that I could create a social encounter and have it work very similarly to a combat encounter as far as mechanics were concerned. It made it a little bit easier to create more interesting social encounters. And skills challenges in and of themselves were you're brilliant. I still miss them. Then we get to 5th edition, which really put the emphasis on kind of storytelling and the story of the characters, at least beginning 5th edition. 5.5 veered away from that massively. But it was based on storytelling, but the storytelling in and of itself was really more meant for, you had role-playing encounters, and then you had combat encounters. And that was really it. They have an exploration pillar. They never really explored it that well. No pun intended. And they have some rules for exploration, but that's basically the rules for exploration in The Lord of the Rings are exactly that. If you're going into an area that you don't know, these are rules that you can use to learn about it. But as far as the idea of going on a journey, and the journey itself being a massive part of the growth of your characters, D&D, even 5th edition, which is better set up for that than most of the editions, just doesn't really do that well. The One Ring does it really, really well. They have, you are basically set up in the idea that you have two different, I can't think of the word right now. Two different kinds of sessions, or two different statuses that you're playing the game. You have the adventure mode, where you're going out and like you're going through the mines of Moria, or you know, you're fighting the trolls, or you're getting, you know, trapped in the webs in the Mirkwood. That, and then you have your fellowship mode, which at the end of every adventure you will have a fellowship session thing, whatever. They have words for it, and I can't for the life of me remember what they are, and I'm going to see if I can't look it up real quick, because my brain is pissing me off right now, because I can't think. Sources, Lord of the Rings role-playing. Structure of the game. There we go. There we go. The adventuring phase and the fellowship phase. There we go. Phase. That's what they call them. So, the adventuring phase is exactly that. That's very traditional D&D stuff. Most of the stuff you would do in D&D 5th edition is going to be stuff that you do in the adventuring phase. However, the fellowship phase, they kind of describe it in this new book as basically kind of what downtime stuff, activities, there we go, downtime activities were. And they put a much larger focus on it, because if you actually look at the structure of Lord of the Rings, really important parts of the story don't happen during the cool action scenes where they're exploring something or fighting monsters or anything. Like, really important parts of the story happen during downtime. You know, the conversation between Frodo and Gandalf, where he's going, I wish the ring had never come to me. I wish I didn't have to live in this time. And Gandalf goes, so do all people that live in these times. You know, it's this really touching thing. Or at the end of the Fellowship of the Ring movie, where they have escaped the Uruk-hai, and they're on the shore of the river, and they go, okay, we're gonna make camp tonight, and then tomorrow we're gonna cross the river. I'm gonna keep going so we can continue on our way to Moria. And Frodo goes off to the throne or whatever that place is. Boromir follows him, and they have that kind of tussle there. None of that is really adventuring phase kind of stuff. That's Fellowship phase. And that specific time where the Fellowship fractures is a massive, massive part of the story that drives the next two books. So one of the things that I've really, really liked about the One Ring, the actual One Ring RPG, not this new one, we'll talk about the 5th edition version of it in a second here, is it really allows you to have that feeling of the journey being just as important as the destination. And those downtime activities that in D&D 5th edition are mostly like, okay, what do you do in your downtime? Okay, make a single roll. Let's move on to the important thing, the action. The One Ring puts a much larger emphasis on downtime and the journey while still giving pretty good action stuff. So when I saw that they were, well, first of all, I believe this already exists. They just released it on D&D Beyond. And it comes with a bunch of new classes and new rules and stuff like that. Because what this supplement is it's translating the One Ring into 5th edition D&D. So what does that actually mean? Well, first things first, the classes that they have in here are only go up to level 10. Because that's kind of how the One Ring is. It's not designed to be a 1 to 20 style, really, really long epic adventure. It only goes 1 to 10. And that does mean that when you're looking through, through the classes, which they call, what are they called again? Callings. They call them callings. They're going to seem a little bit underpowered compared to D&D 5th edition classes because they only go up to level 10. And it also means there's going to be different abilities. I've looked through a little bit of it. I haven't looked through the entire thing because there's a lot of stuff here. But overall, it does kind of feel very much like the One Ring, but with a 5th edition coat of paint over it, which again is not a bad thing. There are a few things that I don't think this does super well, mostly because D&D 5th edition, and to be perfectly honest, D&D as a game itself, going all the way back to like 1st edition, even basic D&D is very magic focused. As much as some people will argue that, earlier editions might not have been as magic focused, a wizard has always been able, since the first version of original D&D, a wizard has always been able to massively change how the game plays. D&D is very, very magic focused, and the Lord of the Rings, magic exists, but it's extremely rare. Something that a lot of people didn't understand about 5th edition when it first launched is due to the fact that both 3rd edition and 4th edition had such a massive reliance on magic items that you literally could not play the game without creating an entirely different rule set for magic item-less games. So when 5th edition came around, they specifically made it so that magic items were supposed to be extremely rare. The limiting to 3 attunable items was one of the reasons why they limited it to attunement. and the fact that they didn't put prices for magic items that a lot of people still complain about today. The reason they didn't put prices for magic items in the DMG was because they were supposed to be really, really rare magical things. The 5.5 has thrown that away, and now magic items are everywhere. But even without the magic items, magic is a massive, massive part of D&D 5th edition, and it's just not a part of the One Ring and just kind of Tolkien in general. Magic in Tolkien, there are quote-unquote magic items, things like elven blades, or you do have the various wizards, like Saruman and Radagast and what's his name? Gandalf. There we go. Man, my brain is just not working right now. You do have people that have magic, but even those magic users are not like flinging fireballs and shooting bolts of lightning and calling down meteors from the heavens. The magic system in the Lord of the Rings is significantly more subtle. And so for the Lord of the Rings role-playing, which is what they're calling this, they did have to tone down the magic pretty extensively. One of the other things that I really, really liked about the One Ring is, again, even in 5th edition where magic items are supposed to be rare, there's still, like, once you get to about level 5 or 6, you're kind of expected to have at least one magic item. If for nothing else, you should have a magic weapon. Because if you don't, you will start having issues hitting or doing damage to certain monsters because they'll have resistance to non-magical damage. So, the thing with the One Ring is, instead of finding new items and just throwing your kind of generic crap away, the One Ring had this system where as you leveled up and grew, you would actually improve the weapons that you had been journeying with to kind of exemplify the idea that you're not just going around and randomly picking up new loot and constantly just throwing away the old stuff. No. You have a weapon. It is your weapon. You do upkeep on it. You know this is your life. This is what keeps you alive. And so as you adventure, you get more and more. You get better and better at using it, and eventually you can turn it into kind of a quote unquote named weapon, like Gimli's axe is a quote unquote named weapon. I don't think they have that same system here. I'm just looking through weapons and stuff like that. Yeah, not really. They have a few different weapons that don't exist in D&D 5th edition, but that's about it. So that's kind of one of my criticisms about it. This is not an in-depth review in any way, shape, or form, but it's one of my criticisms about it is the One Ring is such a cool, interesting system that is not D&D. And by basically creating a 5e conversion, they did drop a few of the things that I think made the One Ring really, really good. But for the most part, there's a lot of really cool, good stuff in here. I think right now it's on sale for $30. The price is listed at $40, and it's discounted to $30. I don't know if that's like a Black Friday sale or that has something to do with the fact that I have the Legendary bundle. I have no idea, but it's cool. There's a shit ton of lore in there. The artwork is gorgeous. So yeah, I thought I would bring it up. If for no other reason than, again, it was something that I purchased. I might do an in-depth review on it. This is sometime. Again, I have many other in-depth reviews to do first. And yeah, and I also just like talking about the One Ring because it's a phenomenal TTRPG system that, again, it's still got that fantasy vibe. Again, D&D was inspired by Lord of the Rings and Tolkien in general. So if you want to be telling, that kind of high fantasy style story, the One Ring does that really, really well, but it also allows for a very different kind of storytelling where the journey itself is just as important and just as exciting as the adventure. So, yeah. Interested to hear what you guys think. First of all, has anyone here actually either read or played The One Ring, either first or second edition? I have no idea how different second edition is because I didn't know second edition existed until fairly recently. But yeah, have you ever, are you familiar with the One Ring role playing system? And has anyone picked up the Lord of the Rings role playing things? I've been interested to hear what you guys think. Overall, like, I'm not really upset on the $30 that I spent on it because I'm a massive Lord of the Rings fan. But anyway, it's gonna be all for me today. I will see you guys in the next time. All right, bye bye.